Good morning, everyone. How's everyone feeling? Cool. Well, good to know. Um, so we're going to talk about loyalty today, but I want to start with a question for all of you. Think about the last time that you, in your life, leveled up. Was it something like a new status point? Was it an accomplishment in your personal life? What was the moment that drove you to think, yes, I'm succeeding, I'm moving forward, I'm progressing in one way or another? That momentum is at the heart of what we're going to talk about today. The heart of loyalty, of gamification, comes down to momentum. And when we think about momentum, we see it every day in our lives. And I have a few examples here from my own life. I don't know if any of you played the LinkedIn games. For those of you who do, these are some of my recent scores. They're actually pretty low, so I normally do better. But I just want to level set with that. Games become part of our life in more and more ways. Even my dog, I have an app where I track his status. This becomes gamified moments, these engaging moments that really make us move forward. And this isn't an accident. The fact that games show up in our lives is not an accident. These are not just moments that engage us, they're moments that move us forward into becoming something bigger. But we also know what it's like when loyalty goes wrong or when things end. Traditional loyalty is kind of like a bank. You earn points, they sit there, maybe you use them, maybe you don't. If you're my case, you lose them altogether because you didn't take action. Action is at the core of what moves us forward when it comes to loyalty. Traditional programs don't have urgency, they don't have identity, and there's no fun and game to it. In fact, from a recent study, it was found that loyalty programs as a whole, people forget about them. People forget that they are enrolled, that they are taking part in something, because they're not really. They signed up for something once, maybe they played a game, maybe they made a purchase, and then maybe I remember that I have that account next time I go there. But let's talk a little bit about how loyalty can move us forward, and that's really the core of what I want to talk about today. Loyalty, obviously the title of the session, is really an outcome. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Optimove's loyalty offering in a little bit, but loyalty as a core business principle is an outcome. It's what we strive for as a whole business and across our customer base. Programs, the way we deploy and use that loyalty, are the mechanism for driving people, engaging them forward, having that momentum. Because progress and momentum is really what drives people forward. At the heart of these moments is progress, momentum, engagement, things that keep us moving and going forward. I want to share with you 5 key things that you should be thinking about when you think about your customer or player loyalty. I mentioned before kind of the traditional loyalty, the idea of banking points, keeping it there, maybe spending it, maybe forgetting about it. The problem with that is that there's no friction. Now, I'm talking about a good friction, the kind that helps us be healthy, that helps us engage, that makes us want to be, have that FOMO almost, if you will. So good loyalty programs have cadence. They have rewards that you can drive forward to. There's motivation for you to keep going. Speaking of keeping going and engaging, it's a two-way conversation. Traditional loyalty was more of the brand says something, maybe there's a number of points or something. It's a generic experience. It doesn't work anymore. It's 2 ways. Your loyalty and my loyalty of the same brand need to feel distinct to us at every step of the way. Number 3 is it has to have an emotional connection. It has to tie into who we are. In fact, over 50% of adults will say that special treatment is something that they look for in brands and engagement. And over 60% of people say that they want an offer or an experience that is unique to them and not generic for everyone else. So we need to make that emotional connection to drive that momentum. It needs to be proactive. You need to have time and attention as the top motivators when you create your programs. And this is a great place for talk about gamification. Gamification is a way that we can increase engagement, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But the last piece here is around integrating loyalty. Loyalty has often sat as its own kind of piece of the tech stack, or it's sat as its own department. But the reality is that we can't keep thinking like that. We need to think about loyalty as an integrated practice, a business imperative to how we are successful and how we holistically as a business think about our experiences. because these kind of enterprise-wide thought processes are what engage the players or the customers to keep moving forward. So these are your 5 kind of modern takes on how to be proactive and engaging with momentum and loyalty. And maybe you're thinking like, no shit. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that, but like, maybe, sorry. Uh, but of course, you're thinking. The challenge is operationalizing that, is actually making it something that's practical. And that's really what we've been building here at Optimove for the past year plus, or it's really what we've been building for over a decade at the heart of it. Because the best answers come from engagement. The best experiences come from that sense of urgency that I'm X number of points away, I'm almost at the next level, I've got 4 days left to complete this challenge. That urgency is what happens, and it's actually a cycle. It's actually an ongoing experience. We often talk about customer journeys as these things that start and maybe end, but the reality is that it's this ongoing progressive loop. Yesterday, Shai, our head of product, talked about AI decisioning. AI decisioning, we talked about making choices around channels, around offers, around campaigns. But that fits directly into the loyalty system as well. What is the next step? What is the engagement from a customer or player? And taking that and engaging with it. It's thinking about how do you act fast in a visible way. And every time a customer goes through this loop, their loyalty to you increases. Their investment in your brand increases. So again, loyalty is not this thing that we do, we run it, you get points, and it's over. It's this ongoing process. And this is not just kind of a theoretical thing here. There's a variety of studies about this. But one study in particular that I thought was interesting to share is about a B2B peer review site. So something that traditionally has nothing to do with gamification, nothing to do with loyalty. People leave comments, people engage in different ways. They added into their platform a badge system. You log in a certain number of times, you make a certain number of comments, you get badges. There's no monetary reward. There's no changes that dramatically happen for the experience except for these things. These stats that show driving engagement for longer periods of time simply by doing badging or experiences or points. So it's not costing the brand anything else, but these incredible stats show that growth of experience and time on site. And we know that the more time someone spends on our site, the more likely they are to engage with us, make a transaction, make a purchase, or move to the next step of that cycle. Now, yesterday, Shai also talked about the data that makes these choices. It's very easy to deploy a game, or very easy to deploy a campaign. It's very hard to do that without context. And Shai talked a little about context yesterday. Context is the understanding of each one of your customers. Knowing who they are, listening to those signals. I mentioned that it's a two-way dialogue a few minutes ago. This is where that really comes in. The way I engage may be different than you, and we need to represent that. The thing about listening to the customer is this is the most important data you can get. Some people call this zero-party data, some people call it declared data. It's knowing exactly who they are. I'll give you a few examples of this. First off, let's say somebody in your system chooses to enroll in a sports tournament over a casino challenge. It's an action, but we can take insights from it. We can learn about who they are. Now we know their affinity. Now we know their motivations. Perhaps someone spent coins on early access to something versus a discount. Well, now we start to understand their mindset about exclusivity versus spending of money. And then perhaps someone signed up for a challenge or a continuous progressive challenge versus a one-time experience. We understand that habit is something that they're looking for and want to build. So these are all signals that we can use in our loyalty and really in our holistic marketing, because as I said, loyalty doesn't sit on its own. The other thing I want to say about this is that, again, traditionally loyalty is something that maybe we build a big program, we run it for years, and we've got this kind of thing that we're always doing. But there's an opportunity for us to differentiate ourselves from our competition. And that's something that we've really taken into consideration when we're building our technology here. Sometimes you want to create, or you should want to create, one-off or time-sensitive loyalty experiences, things that are maybe for an event or for a season. Let's talk a little bit about what that could look like. So You might be familiar with this thing, the World Cup, that's coming up soon. Let's say that for the World Cup, you want to run its own little loyalty program, a little microcosm of your broader system. Maybe you already have loyalty, maybe you don't. But you can modularize that experience, points for the World Cup, run it, launch it, and then eventually archive it. It's short, but it continues that broader momentum going forward. So think about the moments where you can be modular. There's the always-on progression, which is what we're the most familiar with, that continuously coming back for more. And then there's the campaign-native ones as well. I'll give you an example of this. Think about a brand that you love or that you engage with on a regular basis, and think if there's a gamification element to it. What if one day there suddenly was, just for one moment? Perhaps it's Uber. Take 5 rides in a week, get a prize, get a discount, get a badge. Those are moments for surprise and delight for our customers that we haven't really taken advantage of before, because loyalty doesn't have to always be this long process. It can be ongoing. And as I said, it's only part of the broader system. As you know, at Optimove, core to what we do is understanding data, understanding customers and players. The progression layer, this layer of momentum, integrates into it. Again, it's not something that stands on its own. It's something that you need to think about as a holistic experience. And yesterday, Shai went over a little bit of this, but I think it's important to note the way we think about things. We have this product, Optimove Gamify, which we'll talk about in just a moment here, which powers all of those loyalty moments that we spoke about just a moment ago, that drives that momentum, that integrates into that data, that understands that context, and uses that AI decisioning so that every choice, every channel, every offer, every game is unique, personalized, and relevant every single time. A little over a year ago, we acquired a company called Adapt, which we have now built into, and we've called it Optimove Minigames. These are an amazing zero-cost retention strategy. They are engaging with over 40 out-of-the-box games that you can brand to your own brand. You can play, engage, and deploy these just like you would any other channel, and I'll show you that in a few minutes here. We've built a brand new product that I'm going to show you in a few moments. We call it Optimove Loyalty, and it's all about those moments that drive momentum, levels, badges, leaderboards, the things that engage and drive customers forward. And then we have Optimove Promotions. We previously called it OptiPromo. This is all about making sure you're managing and balancing your generosity. I will give you some examples on the next slide about how you can make choices between giving a discount and giving a non-monetary reward like a badge or currencies, and that there's actually a strong correlation between those. And so you can manage your budgets and control all of this from Optimove Promotions as well. I'll give you 3 examples across different industries about how you can think about that monetary versus non-monetary choice. So first, let's give an example of gaming. Traditionally, maybe a player plays and they are normally a frequent player, and then suddenly they go quiet after a little while. Well, maybe they're high value, so our traditional instinct is, okay, I don't want to lose them, so I'm going to give them a bonus to come back. I'm going to give them a match deposit. What if instead we say, use some of your currency, your virtual currency that you've earned through our system, and spend that to enter a tournament or a competition? Remember the example of the badges. People get motivated by these moments, even when they're non-monetary. For retail, again, perhaps somebody was browsing and abandoned. Our gut instinct is to re-engage with them on a marketing email. What if instead it's early access to a new product? And in industries like financial services, perhaps somebody hasn't been depositing as much of their savings account as they normally do. Rather than having a reminder, make it a challenge. Say deposit 3 times in the next month, make a transfer 3 times this month, and keep that going. Remember the cycle. The more we keep people engaged, the more they progress, the more we understand them. So I've mentioned a lot about kind of the ideas and principles of what we drive. What I want to do now for the next few minutes is talk about how this comes to life in our product itself. So the first thing I want to show you is an example of a customer or player profile here. Now, everything that you see is completely modularized. It is customized to your brand. So the example here is one that we have. If you go to our demo booth, you'll see the same sort of layout. But this will fit natively into your own brand's or gaming website. It'll feel natural. It doesn't feel like it's separate. Remember, loyalty has to feel integrated. At the heart of this is the player profile. This is that moment of achievement, of ownership that players have. And we'll talk about all these different elements in a moment here. I've alluded to this idea of multiple currencies. This is a really impactful and important way to give rewards that are non-monetary that can still be used for prizes within your system. You might have you might have various types of currencies for different games or different situations. Things can be worth different amounts of points. And so currencies become really important in terms of that, the transactional element. At the heart of the profile is the progress, is the momentum, seeing and being able to visually understand it. We are powering and driving the loyalty tiers and moving people through that cycle in a really personalized way. We give you the ability to create and manage badges as well. Customize these, interact with these, have that moment of pride on the profile for the customer. And then what drives them forward are the missions, the challenges, the engaging moments. And this is where it gets really exciting, I think, because your challenges and my challenges and missions may be very different because our goals are very different. Maybe they both end in the same result, but you know how I'm going to behave versus someone else going to behave. So we need to personalize at that level. So this is a view of that. What I want to do now is I want to walk you through kind of an example of a player who first engages with an operator or a company, and how we can use loyalty and gamification to build that profile, that individual's commitment, understanding, and loyalty to our brand. So let's take an individual, signs up on our website for the first time. How do we engage, right? What is the gamification moment? We want to start gamification really easy. So for example, I have a mission here. The mission is deposit 20, get 20. Now, you can make it even easier than this. The mission could be complete your profile, right? These are small moments that start to stack up over time. So we have this individual with a simple challenge, they complete it. The next thing is as they continue to understand, we want to get that loop, that progression loop moving forward. And so we start to put in progressive missions, things where they need to show up every day or do something on a repeated basis. And now the prizes may change as well. It may be experience points. In this case, it might be badges. Now, badges, I don't know how many of you play games and have badges in your own lives, but badges are, an incredible thing because they, may not have a monetary value, but people love them. I love them. It's a way of visualizing your success, and you can actually see in the product here, this is how we represent the badges. This little spinny thing, it's super fun. Let's do it again, because I didn't get to see it. It's actually really engaging, and people look for that level of engagement. So this is naturally part of what we offer in our Optimove Loyalty product. So our individual here has gone from someone we didn't really know a lot about, they did a mission, they did a progression mission, and we're building that profile, we're continuing that cycle. And behind the scenes, Optimove is making the choices about what's the next best mission or what's the next experience that this individual can have. And so sure enough, over time, they level up. They progress from level 1 to 2 to 3, and that cycle continues, and we automate that. Now, sometimes the next best experience is not always a challenge or a prize directly. It could be a game. And so back to my example earlier of the World Cup, we have some examples of, let's say, we have an individual who we don't know a ton about them. We know that they're interested in sports betting, but who's their favorite team? Well, let's use this as a moment to understand more context. Remember, context is key to this. So we can create a game that's personalized, that understands and asks questions that we then tie back into that core Optimove profile. So now we can use that for our segmentation, for our personalization. At the same time, you can still build games that are more focused on engagement and fun and time spent on site. So you have the ability to build both and personalize that based on who the persona is and based on the goal that you're looking to achieve. And if we fast forward here to maybe a few months, maybe a year in the future, that profile, that individual, is deeply enriched and ingrained in that loyalty program and with your brand. In this example here is one of our new features with Leaderboards. So they can have their profile showing up on their leaderboard. They can enter different challenges. You can see they can enter with currencies of their own choice. This becomes a really impactful way to show that status and have that pride. Being number one, that drives people forward. That's an engaging, momentum-powered moment. So we talked a little bit about missions. You're looking at tournaments and leaderboards. Soon, we'll have the ability to add battle passes or season passes as well. The ability to add on to an existing time. Think about season passes within a modular loyalty experience. These can be really impactful. And maybe what you're thinking is, but that sounds like a lot of work. but if you've heard any word the past week, it's been, or day, it feels like a week, it's positionless. And that is at the core of how we built this offering, so that you and your teams can build and develop these loyalty experiences on your own without waiting, without delays. And let me show you what that looks like. So if I switch roles for a moment here and go from the role of the customer to the marketer in Optimove, I want to show you how I build a mission. So this is within Gamify. You can see in here that I can select from a variety of different types of missions. Instant missions are like the one that I showed you at the beginning. The progression mission is like the spin the wheel. And then accumulation missions as well. Over X amount of time, do X amount of things. Now, this is part of Optimove. So all of the rich data, the real-time, the behavioral, the profile data is accessible here when it comes to deciding who gets this mission and the criteria. I can do it based on person. I can do it based on existing loyalty status, experience points. I can start to make these pieces in the same way you can build campaigns and content and let AI decision decide. You can do that with games as well, with missions as well. And finally, the rewards of it. What's the prize of it? Now, in this example, there's not a monetary prize, but there's a couple examples of a currency or a badge. So you can do all of these things here as well. I encourage you to spend some time today over at the booth where they'll walk you through kind of how you build the badges, how you build the experience points. It's all the same, very straightforward, directly easy to use. So everything that I showed you before can be easily built out. Now, I want to kind of wrap this up by saying, as I said before, this isn't just its own thing that's not integrated. And so that's why we've put loyalty and gamification into the Optimove UI as well. In this example of a stream here, what we're doing is we're integrating all of the elements of gamification and loyalty. We're starting off by sending out a game at the very beginning of the campaign, if they engage. We then wait and see, how did they engage? Did they interact with this game? Did they play it? Did they complete it? Now, of course, now we can add some multi-channel moments in here as well, a web pop-up, an email. And then we look at the game. Did they complete that game? Did they move forward in that cycle that we want them to be moving forward on? And if they did, or if they didn't, we can put in personalized promotions as well. Those budget-focused, generosity-optimized promotions directly into any of these channels. So it's natively part of every part of your CRM marketing experience. It feeds data, and it leverages that data at the same time. So again, thinking about this from a positionless perspective, we're giving you the tools to build that robust loyalty product, the platform, whether it's modular, long-term, or a combination of the two, that drives the customer or the player forward time and time again. And we're putting it natively as part of the CRM technology that you're using, so that you can automatically build segments for loyalty, build audiences and games that drive momentum forward. And so I'll leave you with this today. I told you before that momentum is key, and that progress is what drives us forward. And now, this progress, this layer of momentum, is natively part of what you can deliver with Optimove and across the customer experiences that you're delivering. And so, as I wrap up today, I'll leave you with the final question, which is, what are you going to build with it? Because it's all yours. Thank you.